What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? It is Wednesday, and as you already know, what goes down on Wednesday, right? Wednesdays with Wes. I'm your host, Donovan Hitchmaster West, and we are talking about all kinds of things related to relationships on this Valentine's edition of Wednesdays with Wes. Thank you for joining me, Pumpkin from Pluto. What up? Ebony, I see you nice and early. That's what's up. Fowler, what's going on? What's going on? So, it's Wednesday. It's a little chilly outside, depending on where you are. I know I got a lot of people coming in from all over, ATL, New York, D.C., Philadelphia, Jersey, Delaware. I know you all are chiming in. So thank you all for joining me. Allie, what's going on? Nika, excuse me. Thanks for joining me. I really appreciate that. So we're going to be talking about all things relationships. But before we talk about what the topic is, you already know it. I want to talk about what your questions may be on this topic of relationships, right? If you have anything from last week or the week before that you want to talk about, well, I'm all ears. We want to make sure, again, that we're reflective and not prescriptive. So I don't necessarily need to just start ranting on and off about, relationships from my perspective. I'd like to hear if you have some questions or anything along those lines that I can answer, right? Does that make sense, everyone? If it does, wave your hand. What's going on, Mike? Thanks for joining us. All right, Samaya, what up? I appreciate you joining. Lydia, what's going on? All right, so we got people coming in, chiming in real quick. I'd like you to chime in. But before I go any further, let me just send a heartfelt thank you to everyone just now that welcomed me officially to the city. Comcast. Comcast Universal, Comcast, the big company Comcast, just threw me a reception at their new headquarters, their innovation center. It was amazing. And I just want to say thank you to everyone that came out, to Brett, to Justin, my board member, Justin, thank you for coordinating that. For Brett, who holds it down over there at Comcast, thank you so much. To Senator Vincent Hughes, thank you. Senator Sharif Street, thank you so much. The GOAT, Bruce Crawley, the creator, the lead guy, the developer who created the African American Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for being there, man. That really meant a lot. Suleiman Rahman, man, the connector. Man, this guy is not, this guy is unbelievable. He's all over the place. He's not one dimensional. This guy is a connector above connectors, and also former, leader over there at the African American Chamber, several years ago. Thank you for also being in attendance. And then there's so many more people, Barry, thank you for holding it down. Tiffany, thank you for holding it down. And everyone else that came out from Delaware, New Jersey, thank you very much for representing. I really appreciate that. And the list goes on, by the way. So this was really dope. It was on the 28th floor. It was epic. And I'm going to stop chatting about that, but I just had to give a heartfelt thank you to everyone that really showed up and did their thing. So that was really humbling just now. Anyway, moving right along, just want to say shout out to everybody else that's just checking in right now. Miss Money Cakes, Canned 110, what's going on? Honesty, what's going on? I see you. Canned 110, what's up? Tiff, I see you. All right. Creative, what's going on? Mrs. Green, I see you. All right. So listen, we were talking about all things relationship. And, one of the things that I talked about just now was just how key relationships are. But before I talk about, this evening's topic, which is, I think some of you guys know, right? I hope you know, right? Is it V Day or is it Me Day, right? We want to get into that. But before I do that, what are some of your questions? Do you have any questions or comments? Anything that you were talking about at the water cooler, in your living room with your girlfriend, with your boys, anything at all? I'd like to make sure that I give you guys the opportunity, the space to ask that question. By the way, when you join right now, when you join the live, if you want to go live with me and ask a question face to face, you can do that as well. If not, you can just go ahead and post your question in this thread, and we'll pick it up, and I'll answer it right now on the spot. If you are too shy for whatever reason, the question you have, you don't think that you can survive the shade or the potential judgment, because this is a judgment-free space. But if you want to ask that question in my DM, go ahead and shoot the question to the DM. at some point, and somebody on my team will post it here without your name associated with it. All right, Kenny Poe, what's going on? So I'm really happy to see everybody here coming from different spaces to check us out this evening. Again, this is Wednesdays with West, but this is all about you. So if you have a question, it doesn't matter what your status is, by the way. Single, separated, married, divorced, in a situation, no, you reach out and give us your question. All right, give us your perspective. All right. All right. So if you have any crazy V-Day stories, let me know what they are. Share it with the audience. You got something that was odd, something that was crazy, or even as you think about Valentine's Day, is there something that that comes to mind in terms of a situation or a question you have? Feel free to ask a question. No question here is a bad question, so I just need you to know that. We want to make sure at the end of the day, everyone also respects, the fact that, if you even have a funny response to someone's question, but you think it might be hurtful, then keep it to yourself, because we want to make sure that people feel encouraged about having dialogue about relationships at all levels. And this is one of the things that I'm doing to contribute to that space, to let you know that, we can have conversations. We should have conversations that are very transparent and that could also expose some level of whether there's naivete or lots of experience or something in between. It doesn't matter. We're all human, right? So I'm going to give you guys a couple more seconds to think about that. Any questions or comments or anything that's relationship oriented? If not, we can dive into the topic of the day, which is it V-Day or is it me day? What's your status and what are your thoughts about Valentine's Day? Is it really, something that we really should dive into really deeply and in honor of, whatever this man-made holiday is, or does it function as a reminder for you that you should do certain things? Is this just another marketing ploy? Something to make sure that, we're still stimulating the economy? What's your perspective of it, huh? If you are single, what does Valentine's Day mean to you, huh? So these are some of the things I want to talk to you about. But, if you have any other questions or whatever, feel free to jump in and let us know what your thoughts are on the topic or any questions related to relationships at all. All right, Pierre, what up? Duchess, what's going on, babe? I see you. All right. So Pumpkin says it's me day, huh? So tell me what me day means to you, right? I know the general definition of that, right, is when someone decides on that day to love on themselves, right? To take themselves out, to treat themselves extra nice, and to do certain things in honor of Valentine's Day, right? So that might be one way that you may approach it. But let us know what your version of me day is if you're out there, celebrating me day versus V Day. Ebony says, I personally don't celebrate this holiday. It's a economy booster. How many of you agree with Ebony, right? That this is really just something to just make sure that the economy is stimulated and is tied into our heart, if you will, right? It's been a while since Christmas, and then you got New Year's. People spend some money then, but it's a little bit of a stretch between now and Easter. So maybe we need Valentine's Day to make sure that we go crazy in the malls and everywhere else on the retail side of things, right? Kenny says, single, me day, marketing ploy. All right, so I hear you. So we got a couple of people that are in that space, right? That think that this is really economically driven and not necessarily a social service kind of reminder for you to acknowledge your loved one or loved ones and express it, right? Ebony also says, I feel bad of how I used to make my significant. Make to my significant. So I'm assuming that you're talking about, what it is that you had to do during that time that you were in a relationship and I guess how the expectations you had and how you may have treated them. That's very interesting. You should tell us some more about that. Big Man Culture, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate that. Oh, you feel bad? Okay, I got you, Ebony. So, however, again, we all have different feelings and also different expectations on V-Day. For some of you ladies and the fellas, what are your expectations now that V-Day is around the corner? What are your thoughts about it? I mean, is it a big deal? and why. I'd like to hear from you guys, and feel free again if you want to invite yourself on the live or whatever. If you have a comment or question, feel free to just go ahead and invite yourself, and I'll go ahead and let you on. And if you want to ask the question or answer the question personally, that's fine with me as well. Okay. So, Miss Andrea Smith Jones, thank you for joining us. I appreciate that. Long name, my bad. I didn't always feel that way. Just really did the research, and the history is sick. Well, yeah, the history of Valentine's Day is very interesting because, a lot of people don't know the origins of it. But if you want to look it up, there are different interpretations of it. However, in terms of today's interpretation of Valentine's Day, right? Do you believe that it's, again, it's just something that you want, you want to have as part of your regiment, your life, your routine? Or is it something more along the lines of, I think it's just another way to just make sure that, we go out and we do all this extra stuff on this particular day to stimulate the economy, to basically be a distraction from what we really should be doing to some extent. It depends on who you are. And it doesn't necessarily mean just because, you may have that opinion is because you're single either, by the way. So I'm assuming that, for those of you who may have that opinion, some of you are in a relationship and feel that way. But let me know what your thoughts are. I'd like to, hear from you. All right. Pretty sexy. Thanks for joining us. Ali says Valentine's Day used to mean pulling the cover over my head, but now I do volunteer work in group activities at work, for church, for kids. I don't do me day. That concept is depressing. Okay, Ali, so you say it's depressing, huh? Very interesting. I think, to some extent, some people may agree with you, right? And that is that, you went, you go out, you treat yourself to dinner, you may buy yourself something nice. And so by way of, I guess, looking after yourself on Valentine's Day, perhaps the thought is that, you're putting more attention, or you're paying more attention to the fact that it is Valentine's Day and that your date is yourself, right? So that perhaps that's one way that you're looking at it. But if there's another way that you're looking at it, please share with us. Give us some more details. Pumpkin says, to be honest, I choose me day because I am single and currently not dating, but I'm hopeless. I'm a hopeless romantic. Although I know it's a source, but I like the idea of feeling special to someone on any day. I like that. Any day, right? So let's talk about any day, right? I think at the end of the day, Valentine's Day does put a great deal of pressure on a particular day. Does that get you off for not doing the other days? Do you think that Valentine's Day should be really more celebrated for, between people who don't typically do it the rest of the year? What are your thoughts about that? And how many of you out there really appreciate actually the any day, the just because gestures as opposed to, a Valentine's Day type of expression of love? Let me know what your thoughts are, all right? Henry, thanks for joining us. I appreciate that. Lydia says, Ebony, can you elaborate on the history? Okay, so Lydia wants to know more about that. Sherry, thanks for joining us. Tiffany, what's going on? I see you. It's a great day to get a motorized chair. Tiffany from the AACC, by the way, she's my she's my office manager and she's my community liaison. And when I call her into my office, she uses the chair and pushes on the chair to get in here as opposed to just walking in. That's because, Tiffany is lazy. But when it comes to that, she's great on the work. She just doesn't like to walk. So, you got to take what you can get, right? Anyway, moving right along, Tiffany, cut it out. Chef Rashawn, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate that. Lydia says, can you share, Donovan, can I share my perspective? Well, my perspective on Valentine's Day is that really, I like the day. It's nice that, I think it puts a lot of people in a certain kind of space that aren't naturally that way. But I'm really not a fan of it overall in terms of, I think it just puts a great deal of pressure, especially when you talk about maybe financially or whatever. I think sometimes, people have a tendency to go towards a particular love language versus just really focusing on what really matters in terms of what is your significant other's love language. And so instead of you doing something that you think actually may resonate better with them, such as if if their love language is deeds, perhaps you do something that's deed focused as opposed to just getting the chocolate, the champagne or the roses, the balloons, the dinner. They may say, oh, you know what? If you would have cooked me dinner, this would have been better than us going out to dinner or something like that. I think what comes along with Valentine's is often a prescribed sense of how you should behave. And, I think that's problematic. So, with it being so much pressure on the retail side of it, and it's not to, again, take away from anyone who is getting gifts and loves getting gifts. Great. If that's your love language, great. Or if you think that on this Valentine's Day you would rather get gifts than your normal love language, that's great. So long as at the end of the day, what's being demonstrated is you serving your significant other in terms of, listening to what their love language is, demonstrating it, and also using this as perhaps your New Year's Day when it comes to you professing your love, right? So if you don't normally, then how about you use the Valentine's Day as like your kickoff for you doing this more often. And so I think that the less that Valentine's Day really means to you, the better, because overall it means that there's greater maintenance that's taking place in terms of the relationships that you're maintaining. And by the way, Valentine's Day doesn't necessarily have to be just you and your boo, your bae, and all that other good stuff. It can be just the people that you love and that you would normally express some form of love with. So if you find yourself giving your mom a Valentine's card, what else are you doing throughout the year? And your dad or your brother or your sister, whatever may be the case, however way you may celebrate it. So for me, Valentine's Day can be a good reminder. I just think that there's too much emphasis, of course, on the retail side, which, by the way, I think is also the easiest approach to take, right? I think it's the easiest approach for people, whether or not you got a lot of money or not. I think it's just the easiest approach in terms of, well, let me just buy something, because if I get you some candy, chocolate, or a card and all that stuff, good, we got that squared away, as opposed to really challenging you on, hey, how well do you know the people that you love in your space? And what do you think would actually be a good demonstration of that? And what can you do to actually execute that on a regular basis? Those are some of the thoughts that I have about that. As for doing me, like on some, V Day versus me day, self-love is all day, every day. And I don't mean, literally in terms of being in a space where, you're being massaged or you're treating yourself to something all day. I'm just saying that this should be a way of life, period. So if you're celebrating V Day, great. If you're celebrating Me Day, great. But just think about, how do you make it a way of life? How do you do this periodically? And, not in a way that cripples you financially, not in a way that distracts you from what it is you're really supposed to be doing, because you're so, you're so enamored with the idea of doing something on this grand scale. But what is it that you can do that's almost like, breathing, or like, whether it is a date night, whether it is, quality conversation, whether it is literally putting your cell phone down, turning the TV off, and literally just looking at the person, interacting with the person with no distractions. What is it? So really, how well do you know the people that you love on, and what are you doing about that on a regular basis? So V Day could be a New Year's Day for your heart. I like it that way. That's my take on it. All right. Chocolate Lady, thanks for joining us. PYT says V Day is a reminder that we should love on each other, whether you're in a relationship or single. Love is a beautiful thing. V Day should be every day. I agree. In some way, shape, or form, let somebody know that you love them. And it doesn't have to be, again, a long, drawn-out thing. Sometimes it can take just a couple of seconds for you to text someone if you can't call them in that moment. Say, hey, just thinking about you. Or, something to that effect. Or if you're on the way to another meeting, or if you got to, you're running errands, for you to pause for a second, let someone know, like, hey, I'm thinking about you. Call them real quick. It could be something simple as a little note that says, hey, again, thinking about you, love you, whatever. It doesn't have to be so elaborate, and it doesn't have to be a holiday thing either. So I agree with you. Miss Sandra Smith Jones says Valentine's Day is every day, because not only do I love myself, but because God loves me forever. I love it. Right? God loves you every day, whether or not you are going to send them send him a card, or whether or not you got there on that Sunday, or Bible study, what may be the case. The goal is really at the end of the day is that that you demonstrate your love in a very regular way, right? In a way that I believe will demonstrate your commitment. And commitment often is really demonstrated in terms of what do you do when you don't feel like it, right? What do you do when it's not such a sexy day, or what do you do when it's not the 14th? What do you do when it's cold and you've been at work all day? And so what are the things that you do to push through to demonstrate your love to those around you, right? And love is hopefully one of those things that inspires you to push through, right? Chandra, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate that. Miss Creative 1959 says, I've always celebrated V-Day, but being single has been a challenge, especially when I'm in business making and selling chocolates. Well, of course. I mean, you're supplying the block, right? Everybody needs you at this moment, right? So, and I like that nice little plug, by the way. So go check out Miss Creative 1959, all right? Check her out. She's got the chocolates on fleet. She got the chocolates on smash. She does her thing. She sent me some stuff and said, hey, what do you think? And I was like, yo, I like it. So, please make sure that you support our viewers, the people that support me. Make sure that you do that. And of course, she's going to be joining the African American Chamber of Commerce. You like that plug too, right? You're going to be joining the Chamber of Commerce real soon. All right. Check us out at www.aachamber.org. All right. /membership. And just go ahead and join us at the Chamber. All right. So where we'll be making all kinds of connections. But moving right along. El Denise says, I personally always loved Valentine's Day, both in a relationship and as a single person. I choose to love on family and friends a little extra today. Sometimes we get so consumed with life, and yes, period. We do. And I think that at the end of the day, what you got to understand is that why are we waiting for the 14th? I mean, seriously, who told you you're going to make it to the 14th, right? Who told you they were going to make it to the 14th? And while we shouldn't think so dark or in such a morbid way, the reality is all you have is right now. So do yourself a favor and be present, right? Love on yourself right now. While you may have arrangements, that's cool. You got something that's scheduled to be delivered, that's great. You may have, what do you call it, reservations. That's a beautiful thing. But what if, for whatever reason, that connection, that union didn't happen on Friday the 14th? Now what? Right? So everyone within the sound of my voice, everyone that can hear me, at the end of the day, take a moment, right? And send a text out. Not right now, right? We got 37 minutes left. Together, that is, right? But after that, shoot somebody a text. Call someone, right? Stop by real quick. Let someone know in your space, in your circle, that you love them, that you see them, that you appreciate them. And that, I believe, really can actually go a lot further than whatever you have prepared for the 14th, right? So be present, make sure that you love on your family and everyone else, because, life isn't guaranteed. We already know that. We hear it often, right? But don't wait for the next event, right? Unfortunate event for you to be reminded. Just know that the moment we have right now, that's all we got. God forbid you don't see me next Wednesday. God forbid I'm gone, right? That's it. So all I can say is what I can say today, and that's about it, right? So thank you all for taking this moment, right? And investing it in checking out Wednesdays with Wes. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And there it is, right? I'm being a good example of what I'm talking about. Make sure that you let people know today, what they mean to you, because tomorrow's not guaranteed. The next moment isn't guaranteed. Anyway, moving right along, right? So celebrating sisterhood. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate that. Fowler says we need these holidays to remind us to stop for a moment and appreciate one another, right? To smell the roses, to give the roses out to the people while they can smell it. I agree. However, what we should also do is make sure that when we are reminded, we take a moment, just take a moment to actually remember. If you kind of keep being reminded, there's a problem. So, and the problem is that we have to start to change our overall behavior, change our overall perspective on, how we should do something. And, if the only time that you're doing something this sweet is on Valentine's Day, take some inventory, right? And work towards doing something a little different. That's what I'm saying to you. All right. So hope you guys receive that in a way in the spirit of, that I intended it. So Ebony says, I think it adds pressure to unnecessary relationships, or adds pressure in an unnecessary relationship. Love should be shown every day. Absolutely. It does provide a certain amount of pressure especially if you are cash strapped, or it's not even always about being cash strapped. Sometimes you can just be extremely busy. It can be a difficult season. Perhaps you're still struggling with other things that are happening in your life. And then now you have the holiday coming, and now what, right? You have to pause and kind of pivot, redirect your energy and mind share to try to, be something that you're not in that moment. And so I think it's very important that you pay attention to your significant other and create a safe space for them to be able to say to them, it's okay. You don't have to, or even be able to communicate, I don't feel like I'm in that space either, because of what I'm going through. So hopefully this also creates an opportunity for you to be able to grow in your relationships, plural, right? Not just with your significant other, but those around you, and be able to help manage expectations about where you may be emotionally, spiritually on the 14th. If you're not really feeling it, if that's not the space that you're in, is that such a bad thing? Are you being a Scrooge? Are you being someone that is really not, not with it, but for an evil reason? Or could it just be you just being, in touch with your feelings? And so these are a number of different things that we should all consider and be sensitive to, right? As opposed to, it's Valentine's Day, where's my card? It's Valentine's Day, where's my chocolates? It's Valentine's Day, what are your plans? It's something that, again, we have to evolve beyond the day, the event, and start to think about, things in a way that could also show our maturity or our sensitivity to, what our mate or our family overall are experiencing. So very good comments, everyone. Ferris, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate that. Chandra says, yeah, mine is acts of service, so let's put in some work together. See, that's what I'm talking about, right? Someone may say, you know what, Chandra, I love you. Here, look, take this. Here's this great gift I got for you. Look, open the box. Are you excited? Do you like it? And you're sitting there looking like, look, I got this backyard situation I may need you to fix, help me out with. Or better yet, there's this plumbing issue. And, if we both rolled our sleeves up, that would be amazing, right? Or not if it wasn't just these. Perhaps it was just quality time. And instead, this person wants to, just send something to you that's really, flashy or something. Again, pay attention to your significant other, to know where they're coming from, to know what their love language is. Demonstrate their love language. Do not communicate your love language and think that you're getting something, achieved or accomplished. Often we have these types of mishaps and miscommunication because we're not in alignment. We think because we would like to, I know what it says, right? Treat people how you want to be treated. However, when it comes to love, no, treat people how they would like to be treated, okay? Not how you would like to be treated, but treat people how they would like to be treated. This is the best demonstration of love. And if you do that, then you're really demonstrating what they call like agape love. You're loving for love's sake. You're not loving to express yourself, but you're loving on them for love's sake, which is understanding their love language and then speaking it. That's the best way that you can. Again, whether you're talking about love language or you're talking about an actual another language. If I walk up to somebody and I say, hola, ¿cómo está mi amigo? Me llamo es Donovan Oeste. And they're like, wow, oh my God, you can speak Spanish. And I'm like, yeah, sí, so, yo hablo español un poquito, pero tratando. And I go on with them just a little bit. I give them some Spanish. They're like, oh my God. More than likely, what they're so excited about is the fact that that I'm making an attempt. And so when you're making an attempt to speak someone's love language, it's the best sign of respect, best sign of humility, and it's also the best demonstration of love, all right? So beautifully, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. De'Ara, what's going on? Lydia says, when newly dating someone, how should you navigate the expectations around V-Day? Well, that's a great question. This is a good time for you to start setting a precedent, So I got the motion detector lighting, so I got to move around a little bit. There you go. All right, so when you're in a relationship or a budding relationship, you're dating someone, my thing is that you don't do too much to impress your date, the person you're dating. This is important because you're setting a precedent. And I think that, impressing someone it's a slippery slope, meaning you put yourself at a certain standard. And most times when we're impressing someone, what we're doing is we're saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to go to an extreme to some extent of what I think this other person would like to receive or experience. And, that's tough, especially in the early part of it, because if that's not something that you are willing to do on a regular basis, then that can be a problem. So I think that it needs to come at an intersection between, who you are naturally, what you think, they would enjoy, and do something along those lines. But to go over the top, in terms of, gifts and things of that nature, there's a couple of things that are wrong with that, right? Impressing someone may, again, that may kind of come off as a little bit not so authentic, should I say, right? And then another example of what also can come out of that is that other person could feel a great deal of pressure by way of the kind of gift that you give them, where they may say, well, we're just dating, so why am I getting, this 2-carat, pair of earrings or something to that effect? Or why are we going to Paris? And, we're just dating. I'm not sure I understand or really feel comfortable in where we are, when you now use this opportunity to turn it into something more than what they're willing to engage you at that point. So be very careful about the types of gifts you get. You give and what they may mean. So ask questions too. By the way, get some context for the gift. If you receive a gift, so that you can make sure that, again, we're on the same page. You might be dating someone. They may believe that they're courting you, which means, the major difference being you're dating someone, you think, hey, I see you today. I may see someone later in the week. So in terms of Valentine's, maybe we see each other, maybe we don't see each other. But the point of the matter is that you help to manage expectations by way of, getting some more clarity behind certain gifts and what do they mean to the other person and all that other good stuff. So these are a lot of the tough conversations we need to have to just make sure that we don't have, miscommunication, which usually erupts in terms of some kind of argument when and someone's feelings are hurt as a result of them believing they're somewhere that they're really not in terms of, priority in your life. All right. Allie says, I do me day every day. It gets old. I love dinner and a show, romantic days and nights out with a sexy man. I wouldn't enjoy an evening out alone on V-Days surrounded by booed up couples. I hear you. I think you're not alone, by the way. I think, a lot of people, on Valentine's Day don't necessarily want to immerse themselves in a space where it's definitely more booed up or more couples than normally if they were hanging out at any place, right? So they may hang out amongst each other, right? If you're single, we've had that before, right? Where a bunch of single people come together and just hang out, have a good time, keep it light, interact, have drinks, listen to music or whatever. Or you may have the occasional house party, game nights that, again, may be just nothing but single people coming together. That may be a good way to go about it. Or a lot of people may just decide to, it's just Netflix and me, right? Chilling, right? By myself. So, again, you got to do what makes you feel good and stay away from being in a space, though, that can feel, isolated and can be depressing. So just be careful. Try to find a delicate balance. For many who may say, well, I don't have a ton of friends, or, I don't really have, I don't necessarily want to be home either. So what do? I would say, you check out and see, whether it is Instagram groups or Facebook groups or whatever. Identify, space and place where you can hang out a little bit and just keep it light and lively. It does not mean that you need to look for someone to hook up with or anything like that. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about, at the end of the day, Valentine's Day is a day, okay? It is a day. What it means to you, it's up to you to define it, okay? And just be careful to not necessarily, feel like you have to celebrate it because of the momentum of everyone else and what's going on. It's your life. It's your time. And no one else can control it in terms of what you do with it, but you. All right. So your pumpkin from Pluto, you like my little term about it being New Year's Day. For Valentine's Day, it's a New Year's Day for your heart. So treat it that way. And for your Valentine's Day, you may actually say, like New Year's Day, here are some things that I think I may want to do different. right? And think about it from that perspective. For some of you, that may be something that works. It gives you an opportunity to reflect on, whether it's past relationships, your own behavior, your attitude, your activity, lack of activity, or how you see everything all together. It might be a good opportunity for you to do that. So, something to think about, all right? Miss Jessie, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. Ebony says, simple ways of affirming, speaking in, moving in love, washing the dishes. It's not on your, when it's not your specific task or your specific day to do it, depending on, what your situation is. It's so much bigger than, than a day. I totally agree with you. Putting in the work daily will yield the results for the long term. I totally agree. And often the case, we need to make sure that we are, that we have a bigger view of, what we're doing in that relationship or in all of our relationships, whether we're talking about, platonic or intimate, familial, whatever may be the case. It's a good opportunity to take inventory and think about what are you doing on a regular basis to nurture your relationships, right? Shout out to Valentine's Day, but again, it's just one. You got another 364, or in this case, another 365, right, in this leap year. So thanks for joining us. Hello, Keish and Turnpike. Mark, what up? Rod Mosley, thanks for joining us, man. Rod, you need to post that interview we did back in the day on Valentine's Day about, what does Valentine's Day mean and all that good stuff. You should go ahead and post that like tomorrow on a throwback thing or whatever. That would be a good look. Make sure you guys follow Rod Mosley. He's done a series of interviews and things of the nature. Really good content. Ebony says, love is a lifestyle, not a trend. Say it one more time, right? Love is a lifestyle, not a trend. And that's part of what I was saying earlier in this conversation with you guys, is that, make it a way of life. You don't necessarily have to, make reservations for a restaurant, a special restaurant every month or whatever. Financially, that may be a bit of a strain. But think about there are different ways that you can love on one another. And the person that you're dating or the family members that you love on, there's lots of different ways for you to express your love. Yes, it does take work. It does take energy. It does take mind share. But, there's not a shortcut to it. I don't know what else to tell you. For those who even like gifts, you got to take time and you got to really think about what kind of gift to get. It's not just at some point, even that gets old if there's no thought behind it. So let's just, make sure that we're mindful in all the moves that we make. And for many of you, again, redefine what parameters you're willing to look at when it comes to how you express your love. Just redefine it, make it more interesting, whether you've been on this earth for 20 years or for 40 or for 60 years, just different ways for you to express your love. There's different ways to go about it. Don't necessarily feel like just because you communicated a certain kind of way that you're locked in. So long as there's air, there's opportunity to do something different and to go in a different direction. All right. Jam Down, thanks for joining us. I appreciate that. All right. So Jam Down says agape celebration. I agree. If it was, I wish, Valentine's Day was an agape celebration, because then you would see is, less pressure, so to speak, in terms of the types of gifts you give and or the types of gifts you receive. It would simply be, love for love's sake, period. And then, Valentine's Day would just really just be just another day, because you have the other days of the week or the month or the year that you've actually also demonstrated your love. And so Valentine's Day wouldn't have so much weight, so to speak. Does that make sense to you guys? I hope it does. Anyway, Pumpkin says, also feels like it's an opportunity for those who are not well at expressing their feelings to be able to do that. I agree. I think, one thing we don't want to do is we want to make an assumption that, that it's easy to express love or whatever. So I do think for a lot of people who typically are not your, just because thinkers when it comes to, how they process love, I understand that. I just believe at the end of the day also, one of the things that we all have to do is we have to get in the mindset and then start to also demonstrate the behavior, so we ultimately become the culture that does do this, that does nurture this, that does also manifest a certain kind of expectation as it relates to how we grow, how we develop, how we interact with one another. And so that's where it actually has to start. It has to start early in our life where, when you grow up, you see this and you see the love being expressed throughout the year in different kinds of ways. And so now this actually becomes a little bit more natural because it's been nurtured within you as opposed to it being, externally pushed on you or in ways that some would say are manipulative, right? Media and everything else says, well, this is how you express love. And this is when you really, take it to the top. It's Valentine's Day. So really, what are you going to do? That kind of thing. We got to be very mindful in terms of how we do that, right? What else we got going on? Lydia says there's a question that came in. It says, my coworker from work husband wants to go to lunch on V-Day. He also got me roses last year. I'm in a relationship this year. How do I set boundaries? Well, you set boundaries by way of, hopefully you're communicating about where you are. What's the difference between last year and this year? So I would say there's nothing wrong with just communicating that there's a difference. And you are in a relationship and how this may look or how this may appear, how you may feel uncomfortable about, doing that. And the reason for you feeling uncomfortable isn't necessarily because, you don't like that person or anything like that, but just looking at, and respecting your relationship. You don't want to, hurt your significant other, you don't want to hurt their feelings and you don't want to put them also in an awkward position. So, coming from a place of concern is the best way for you to really communicate when, you're talking about how things are changing in terms of the dynamics of your relationship, whether it's platonic or not, when things are changing with you. It's very important that you when you do communicate things are different or things are changing, that you come from a place of concern. So you don't want them to feel awkward. You don't want who you're dating to feel awkward. You also want to function in a way of respecting them by way of being very transparent. And that's the best way you can really manage expectations is by letting them know that all you're doing is making sure that everyone has enough information to make the right kinds of decision and hear the decisions that you've made. And letting them know is part of your respect for them, right? So Nikki Baby Blue, thanks for joining us. I appreciate that. Pumpkin from Pluto says, I like flour, I like candy, jewelry, dinners, I like letters, gestures, etc. Valentine's Day and any day. I hear you. So she's like, look, just bring it anytime. Here are all the things. Here's my list. And that's a very, very good list. And by the way, again, give people the details. Don't have them sitting there scratching their head like, what should I do? And all that other good stuff. Communicate it. Don't get into don't posture in such a way where you say, well, they should know. Nah, I mean, maybe they're trying, but certain people can read you better than other people. So how about you erase some of that mystery, right? And give them some really good clues and let them know how you like to be loved. And give them some good examples. It's not about, I don't want it to be, I don't want people to interpret that as like, well, all right, I'm going to tell them what to get me. No, it's not that. Give some examples. For some people, it can be very overwhelming, the idea of getting you something, or whether it's on a regular basis or for the holidays. So help people out, because sometimes people have anxiety around, what to get, whether or not you'll like it, right? And they'll tie that right into, being accepted or rejected. And that fear factor can sometimes be very paralyzing. So just think about that a little bit. Create a space where, you can communicate and make them feel comfortable. Whatever they get you, reward that. Because, again, the mind share, the gesture itself, the time that it takes, all the things that you should definitely respect about it, even if at the end of the day what you receive is not necessarily something that you enjoy. But take that as an opportunity, a learning moment, a teachable moment, so that that person can know what to do going forward. But be very tactful, okay? Be very tactful. So, practice your receiving face, right? So, you get it and you go to open it up and you're like, thanks. This is nice. I really like, that's really, practice better, all right? Do better. Let's get it ready so that when you do open it up next time, you're like, oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Oh my God, thank you for taking the time, for taking the mind share. I absolutely hate the gift, but you tried. No, pause. That last part you don't have to do. But you should make sure that you focus on what's important. And what's important is someone taking the time, taking the mind share, and if they took, money or whatever they did to give you something. And, that's what it's about. It's about the expression. It's about that piece. It's really not about anything else. And even if at the end of the day, you do something at another time, that's great. Hopefully you do something at another time so it doesn't rest solely on the shoulders of Valentine's Day. All right. So Nika says, I agree. Love is year round. That's right. Pumpkin says any day. Miss Sandra Smith Jones says, so true self-love is healthy. Absolutely. Right. So everybody's giving amens. Right. Classy Natural. Thanks for joining us. I really appreciate that. Miss Freckles, what's going on? All right. So it's Coco Baby. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate that. All right. I am a dream. Thank you very much. So I'm getting some green lights and thumbs and all these emojis all day. That's what's up. Chris G's, what's going on? All right. So he said, man, you better quit. You hilarious. So I am Trekker, what's going on? So he said Espanol. Sí, Espanol un poquito. So anyway, moving right along. It is a good idea to meet someone new on Valentine's Day. Is it? Yeah, it is. I think it is. I just think you just need to make sure that you don't make any rash decisions on Valentine's Day, right? Typically, we can be in a vulnerable space on Valentine's Day and say, you know what? I'm going all the way in. And don't do that. Don't do that. Don't make any rash decisions on Valentine's Day, But I think there's nothing wrong with, meeting someone new, talking with them, getting to know them, even going further and having a drink with them, coffee, tea, alcoholic beverage, whatever it is you do. But just calm down. Leave it right there. And give yourself some time to get to know that person in a very organic way. Think through it, use power of discernment, all that good stuff, right? Real sample size. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate that. Mrs. Green, you said, should you expect a Valentine's Day from a platonic friend? I think it depends on, how you really, how you guys define your friendship. So if you've done it before, great. If you haven't done it before, but you would like to get a gift from your platonic friend, I think you should go ahead and have the conversation. Again, if you feel inclined to receive something for them or would like to get them something, have the conversation. It's something that's unique. Not everyone is thinking along those same lines. So don't leave it to assumption. Say, hey, you know what? I'd like to get you something for Valentine's Day. Would that be okay? Or you could say, hey, what do you think about exchanging Valentine's gifts? Since we're both single or whatever, or let's exchange Valentine's gifts. But what does that actually mean? Right. So maybe this person is like a soulmate, a good friend or whatever, and you want to express that you love them on Valentine's Day. That's fine. But it's really important that you have these types of clarifying conversations so that you can manage expectations, right? You can make sure that no one's feelings get hurt or no one's feelings gets accelerated. And they think, oh, I'm out the friend zone. Look what happened. Dear journal, dear diary, pause. No, if you think that it may go in that other direction, then that could be a problem. So, if you're going to give someone a gift or if you receive a gift, make sure that you ask some clarifying questions or you have some clarifying conversations so that you can make sure you don't lose that person, that platonic friend, due to the gesture that you made on Valentine's Day. All right. Nikila, what's going on? Brandy Bay, what up? I see you. All right. Built for this. What's going on? Child, what's going on? I see you. Shannon, what's going on? Nikki, I see you. All right. So Ms. Money Cake says Valentine's Day is always a little bit tricky. In a long distance relationship, I have not had an actual Valentine's on Valentine's Day in probably 18 years. Wow. That's a long time. That's a grip. So in terms of how you want to celebrate Valentine's Day, obviously, there's a lot of ways you can do it in a long range relationship, right? Sending gifts, FaceTiming and stuff like that. But in 18 years in terms of, if that's something that you're okay with, great. If that's not something that you're okay with, then I would change it and make some adjustments, make some plans where you guys can meet maybe in the middle or you go there, he or she goes there. The point of the matter is that if that's something that really is high on your priority list, right? Again, as I mentioned earlier, Valentine's Day is something that should be mutually, agreed upon in terms of its value and how much you may prioritize this particular day. And so have the conversation. What does Valentine's Day mean to you? Is that something that's really important? Assess where you are in a relationship. Even if you want to put together like price points or make it kind of crafty and say, okay, what is it that we can do for under this amount, or what is it we can do that doesn't cost any money, and let's see who can get the best gift, or whatever may be the case, or just talking about your love language and doing something that you both can enjoy doing on Valentine's Day, and then creating again the routine, right? The routine of some quality time or that kind of quality exchange, within the time frame that you guys are together. Period. All right. I'm a Michael. What's going on? I appreciate that. All right. Miss Money says, been in a church relationship. In a current relationship for 2 years. So I am not sure how I feel about Valentine's Day. Okay. Well, I think at the end of the day, if you've been in a relationship for that amount of time, again, take inventory. I'm pretty sure you know how you feel about Valentine's Day. You just need to tune into it. Okay. Just think about that. So, you guys with all the emojis, faces, everyone's laughing, all this other stuff. So, which is good. I'm glad everyone's having a great time. It's 9:51, so I got a couple minutes left. Chris says, you get into a new relationship. How long should you wait to introduce to the kids? I think this is this is tough because it depends on who you are. And it depends on, when I say who you are, meaning, some people are very comfortable with, their kids getting to see someone that they're dating after, 6 months, a year. If you're a person that says, you know what, my grasp of, someone, me introducing someone to my children is along the lines of, this is someone that I really plan on actually. We're on a trajectory to getting married, right? So if you're in that space where you say, you know what, I want my kids to see, this person, because this person is now on the way to being my significant other for life or something. Others may say, you know what, this person is just a good person and, they're my friend. And of course we're going to date and do all this other stuff. But if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And I'm actually more flexible or comfortable with the idea that I might be, introducing another person to my children in a couple of months or next year. It really depends on who you are. So, for me, you're not meeting my daughter unless, it's really, really serious. That's me, and I don't like the idea of, my daughter seeing her dad dating a bunch of people. And it's not for any other reason other than that's just my preference. I think at the end of the day, there's also value if she saw me dating different people, because then I can also say to her, well, this is the dating stage, right? It's just, these are people, these are friends. I'm just getting to know them and blah, blah, blah. I don't think that's an issue at all. However, again, it depends on who you are. It depends on what you feel most comfortable with. And so I'm not in a space where I feel comfortable just interacting with anyone that I'm dating after a couple of months or even maybe a year, at the point where I think it may be serious, or that I may just have a really good friend that regardless of where the relationship goes, right, this person will be around and they'll still be a friend. I think at that point, I would introduce them to my child or children. So you really got to just go ahead and say, what does this really mean to you? Who is this person to you that you're introducing to your child or children, so that you can be able to make the decision as to, how much time you really need to vet that person. All right. Lydia says, a question came in talking about my dude got us tickets to a hockey game. We are an interracial couple, and I don't want to be insensitive, but I'm not interested in hockey at all. I feel like this gift. Well, I think it could be his gift, right? He wants to go to the hockey game. He wants you to come with him. So this is one of the things where you may need to, sacrifice. If he got you the gift, got you that, and say, okay, this is a gift for Valentine's Day, you can let him know, like, I'm going because of you. I'm going to be with you, to accompany you to this, but this isn't my thing, and so I don't think you should spoil it for him. If he wants to go to a hockey game and he wants to try to enjoy it with you, great. But I do think that at the end of the day, you should, of course, educate him on some of the things that you guys could do together that will be mutually enjoyable, right? Mutually entertaining, and create create an opportunity by way of having a conversation with him, or even giving him an example by way of treating him to something that he likes and you like, and say, see, this is more along the lines of what I'm willing to, do, so to speak. Was for him, and I'm annoyed, right? So she was finishing the question. So I'm dating more than one person now. How do I decide who gets my attention on V-Day? Well, if you're dating more than one person on V-Day, if you're dating more than one person, the person that you spend time with on V-Day would be the person that you really enjoy spending time with more than the other. People like to say, well, it's kind of equal. Well, if it's kind of equal and you really feel like you're in a space where you can't make a decision, then I would say you spend the time to yourself. I wouldn't suggest that you spend time with both of them. You could do some, breakfast with one person, and then lunch with another, and then dinner with somebody else. You could do that. However, I think at the end of the day with V-Day, V-Day means different things to different people. So you can't treat them the same, because the reality is while they may be in the same category because you're dating, the reality is that they're not the same person. So what does V-Day actually mean to them? With one person, the person that is also in a dating mindset and is like, hey, we just hanging out, I think that's the number one person that may actually, be a candidate for you hanging out with. Hopefully you enjoy them, also a whole lot, and they're in a dating space. If they're not in a dating space and they're kind of like, they're dating you because, they really want to court you, they want to be more serious, and they're just going to accept what they can get, well, that's when you're talking about something a little dicey, because V-Day could mean a whole lot to that other individual. So be very careful when it comes to that. Make sure that you're managing expectations. Make sure also at the end of the day that you're thinking about now what, right? So for everything that you do, there is an end result, some kind of ramification, and you got to be sensitive to that. All right. What else? Let's see what else. Butterfly, thanks for joining us. Levon, thanks for joining us. V-Days, every day is what you say about showing love to your partner daily. Absolutely. Not just Friday. We should feel important and special every day while you are together. Absolutely. Alba, thanks for joining us. D West, what's going on, bro? I think it should be when the couples are engaged to be married, where that person will play a pivotal role in their child's life. I agree that, when you're in that space, that's a good thing to do. It's 9:58, got a couple minutes left. Practice the face, girl. You got to make sure that, when you are at the hockey game, well, that you are at least a little entertained. Maybe a fight breaks out. That can be kind of cool to watch. If not, just make sure you bundle up. What else? No, Lydia, she should not take him to a hair show. That's you're being really petty. Anyway, Levon says, have an open mind to go to the hockey game. Great things come from being uncomfortable. I agree. Try it out. You don't know that you don't like it until you actually get there. It might be fun. Let's see. Trying something new instead of hard no and hurting the guy. Right. Instead of saying a hard no and hurting the guy's feelings. I totally agree. So you guys definitely on board for that. Mrs. Nicole Green, thanks again for joining us. So again, I got less than 2 minutes left. I just want to say to you all that, Valentine's Day is around the corner. Take care of yourself, love on yourself, take inventory about how you function when it comes to your relationships, plural, right? Both platonic, intimate, otherwise. Communicate through it, have courageous conversations, make no assumptions. So, strive for clarity. Make sure that you also demonstrating some level of love or love language. Show your mastery of another person's love language by way of demonstrate that through, your actions, your deeds, your gestures. All right. And make sure that you get, for those who typically don't get a great deal of your attention, let them know that you see them. Let them know that you're thinking about them, right? Love comes in many different forms. So we don't always have to go for the extreme version of all these gifts and all levels of intimacy. But what we can also do is we can just, put a little bit of deposit, so to speak, by way of, being mindful to reach out to certain people that aren't often, hearing from you. So you never know what someone is going through. And during that time, just your call, your text, your gesture could be all the world difference of turning their frown upside down. All right. So anyway, everything else that's going on in your world, I pray that you do it in a way that's very mindful and thoughtful. As for, the events that are happening in your life around Valentine's Day, have a good time doing it. As you already know, this is Wednesday with Wes, and I'm Donovan Hitchmaster West. Feel free to make sure that you tune in every Wednesday from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. where we talk about all things relationships. And do me a big, big, big favor. Please share this with someone else, all right? Someone who doesn't know, let them know now, all right? Wednesdays with Wes. It's been my pleasure to serve.